All right, so let's learn how to do flats. Now, this is a tedious process, but it's a really great way to get into the comics industry, is by doing flats. When you do flats, what you want to do is you want to go in, you want to use your lasso tool, the lasso brush here. And the lasso brush is going to, basically you're going to use this to kind of fill in certain things of color. And we'll do this with Lucy's face right here. When you're using this brush, you want to avoid the anti-aliasing. And that's one of the things we've kind of got. We still have a little bit of it here, and that's because we didn't go completely black and white, but you can kind of see that there are these little specks here that are to kind of smooth things out that are just lightly gray. Now, if I'd gone completely black and white with this, I wouldn't have had that. But I kind of wanted to kind of give you a good mid-ground between the two. So when you're flatting, and this can take a long time, there are some things that you want to do. First, make sure that anti-aliasing is turned off here with your lasso tool. Then making sure you're on the flats layer. You're just going to go through and you want to basically just select kind of halfway through the black line and the white area with your tracing. And then you can go in and you'll fill that with a certain color. Now this color, and we're going to use G, doesn't have to be the final color that you're using. This is just basically a selection that'll allow you to select things as we go forward with things. And when you're doing the flats, I kind of did this wrong. Let me show you how you want to do this. You kind of want to work from the larger areas out. So you want to start off first with your panels. And with these, I'll just use kind of a gray background there. I can select all that, and then using G, I can kind of just fill that in. Now this has already been filled in, so going back to my marquee tool with an M, I'm just going to go through and select these. Now what I can do is if I hold down Shift, you see there's a little plus there, and I can go through and select all of these areas separately. I'm going to skip over the little area with the thwump and ong, but once again, remember, you want to kind of get halfway between both these lines. So here, I didn't get that completely, so I can just go up just a little bit to add to that. And the reason you want to get between these, the black and the white, once again, has to do with printing. With a lot of prints with comic books and stuff like that, they'll put the basic CMYK, those colors down first, and then they'll go over top of it with black. If the flats that you have don't have, are just right up to the edge, sometimes that plate that puts down the black is shifted just a little bit, and then you'll get a little bit of a white or blue or whatever color off of that, so things will misregister. So you want to make sure that you kind of overlap a little bit so that if the plate moves just slightly, you'll still get a little bit of that color underneath. All right, I have all of these selected. So once again, I hit G to use my paint tool, and I want to make sure as well with this that anti-alias is selected. So then we can just go with our paintbrush or paint bucket tool, click this and fill all these in. And then what we're going to do, hit Command D to deselect, is you're just going to kind of go from larger to smaller. I'm not going to do all of these just because it will be kind of crazy, but we've already done some of Lucy. So let's zoom in on her. Command plus to zoom in, and then this the space bar to use your hand tool is going to be really, really helpful. Once again, L for lasso. And then I'm going to go in and get the rest of her skin here. And you can see, because I didn't go black and white, right there near her arm, there's a little bit of muddiness. And around her hand too from that anti-aliasing. If you hold down Shift, you can see you get the little plus there. And that allows you to add. Same thing here. I'm just going to get this area and this. You don't want to go too far. If you go a little bit too much like that, you can hold down the Option key. You see how you now have a minus? And then you can kind of deselect those areas. All right, so once again, I'm going to hold down G, and then if I hold down Option here, you can see I can select that color and then fill up there. Command D to deselect. Forgot to, once again, going over my lasso, you can see here I need to get that, G, boom, deselect. Let's do her dress next. So same thing here, I'm going to use the lasso tool, get that first area here, and then what I would recommend is not trying to do the entire part of this, but just do little sections. That way if you shake or something like that, you don't lose the entirety of that. You can deselect. So once again, now I'm holding down Shift, and then I can just kind of do this, and then and when I let go, it's just going to snap back into those areas. So you can kind of use this as a way to kind of add to things, and this is probably a little bit of an easier way to do this. There we go. And then I also know that her socks are the same color as her dress. And let me show you something else. With these socks, it's pretty straight, so I can, once I start moving, if I then hold down Option, you can see that it goes into the Polygonal lasso tool, and I can just very easily use that for straight lines. If you hold down Option beforehand, it goes into a minus, but if you're actually drawing the area, I'll just do this over here, if you start drawing an area and then hold down Option and then let go of your mouse and start clicking, you'll get that arrow key, and that can sometimes allow you to go a lot faster. I'll just hit Command Z to undo that because we just want that area here, and same thing, double click here, we'll use kind of a nice blue, maybe go a little bit more into this area, there we go, and then pressing G, got that put in, and we can just kind of go through, and then there's stuff like this. Let's do the grass last. Same thing, I'm just going to hold down L, and I can just kind of create, because some of these lines, and what's really nice is because it's going to fill in this blue area, if I go outside of this, it doesn't really matter. Watch. G, because what's happening here, if I go and turn off my line art, I've just selected this area, and because the tolerance on my, I usually do like 3, the tolerance on this is very, very low. Once it gets to this area, even though I've selected all this, it's only going to fill up the blue section. So here we'll use kind of a more muted green. When I click on that, it's just filling up that section. You can see it stops here. So that's what's a nice thing to kind of be aware of when you're on the edges here. Same thing here. We'll go to lasso. I'm doing this in a very kind of cramped area. All right, so we've got that. I, of course, don't want the shoes in here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. There we go. And then once again, G, and then fill that area in there. Deselect. So I'm not going to have you watch me do all of this. But when we come back, I'll have everything filled in with the flats, and we'll talk about kind of the fun part, which is going in and actually adding in, doing the actual fun coloring aspect of this. But once again, don't feel bad about flats. Flats are boring and tedious, but they're a great way for you, if you know what you're doing, to get into the kind of get your foot in the door. And it pays about as good as, depending on how fast you are, about as good as some gig work would do. And you get to do it from your own home. All right, next section, the actual aspect of starting to do some color work.